We now move on to the fourth video in the second module of the foundation course for property investors, and we continue on with the due diligence theme. And this time we come to property due diligence, and either online and desktop activities, on-site activities, and deciding your offer. And once again, there is a more advanced course which takes a lot longer to go through online, the due diligence course. So let's look at the online and desktop due diligence activities. First of all, check the property value against others in the same neighborhood or location. And notice I've put neighborhood first and then location, because ideally you want to check the value as close to the location of the property as is possible. Always compare like for like. If it's a two-bedroom property, then you want to compare it with other two-bedroom properties and not four, or vice versa. And if there isn't a like for like in the immediate area on Rightmove, then move out to a quarter mile and then possibly half a mile, but really no further than that. You're looking for like within a quarter to a half mile radius of the postcode and on Rightmove, where you can look at two aspects of it. You can look at the historic sold prices on Rightmove, and you can also look at properties that are currently for sale on Rightmove. So you've got a double bite effectively of the apple. Now, if you're doing a major refurb on the property, you've bought a distressed property and you're using the forced appreciation strategy, then regardless of the price of properties that are for sale on Rightmove, you can add a little bit to that, because when you've refurbished your property, it's going to be, quotes, as good as new, and that's unlikely to be the case with comparable properties that are currently for sale. The next thing to do online is to walk the immediate area around the property using Google. With Google, you can drop in on the street and actually look at the property you're thinking possibly of buying. But you can also walk the neighborhood. You can walk around maybe 2 or 3 or 4 streets to see what the effect is and how they look. You can also pan out on Google and look from the sky, so to speak, and see whether there are any thing around the property which could cause you to think again, such as a rail line or a busy road or an industrial estate. All this can be seen using Google very easily. You can often zoom in very, very tightly and see what's going on. But do remember that the Google Maps are not literally current. It's not up to date today. It may be a year old. But it's a huge resource to be able to look at properties both with regard to their street view and with regard to the bird's eye view, and look at the location and area around without leaving your home or office. And finally, desktop. Carry out a desktop initial number crunching and online valuation before you get in the car to go and view the property. You should know what you're looking for, and you should have an idea of what it's going to cost you to do any fix-up in it. So you should be able to carry out an initial number crunching exercise and begin to close down on what you think will be your offer, whether you are going through private treaty and estate agents or going to auction. At the end of the day, though, you have got to go on site. Never ever buy a property without checking it first, without viewing it first. Either you have to view it or have somebody view it on your behalf who you trust. When you get to view the property, drive and walk the immediate neighborhood. And by the immediate neighborhood, I'm talking about a couple of 3 streets around the property. And look for similar properties and what they're used for. If you're going to go into HMO as an example, then you want to find other HMOs in the location or the neighborhood. If you're going to go into converting a property into flats, you need to find other properties, similar properties, that have been converted into flats. So you need to find other properties which are being used in a similar way, so that the precedent has been set for that use. carefully view the property. You must go inside and out, but inside is so important. And also look at the outside of other properties, similar properties in the same street, and look for telltale signs, like for instance, if the property 3, 4, 5 doors up has got a new roof on it, the probability is that the roof on your property, the one that you're thinking about buying, will also need replacing, because people replace roofs unless they have to. And the same goes for other telltale signs like repointing and this sort of thing, because it indicates that the exterior of the premises, the property, is pretty run down. Also, if you can do, which we covered in the location and neighbourhood due diligence, try and talk to the neighbours. Try and find out what is happening in the street that you're looking at. Then we come to deciding your offer. Always calculate the buying, setup and refurbishment costs. Now, buying can be expensive, particularly if there's stamp duty involved. I once met an investor who forgot to calculate the stamp duty on a block of flats costing £400,000. Ouch! He forgot to bring that into his calculation. So be very realistic about calculating the cost of buying. And regardless of what you buy, even if you buy new build, you're going to have some setup costs. Redecoration, various setup costs, even if it's down to a gas check. And you need to bring those into your calculations. And depending on the condition of the property, you may have to start refurbishing it. And then you need to look at what the costs are that add value. Generally speaking, refurb work adds value, but not always. You're not going to increase the value of a property by simply redecorating it. But if you do something serious, like for instance change existing wood frame windows, timber frame windows to UPVC double glazing, that is going to add value. The same would go for replacing a kitchen. But you need to make certain that you can identify which works will add value and which will simply be a setup cost effectively. And remember that having bought and set up the property and spent a few hundred or a few £1,000s doing it, this property has got to increase in value by that amount before you get your money back. And this is covered quite extensively later on in this foundation course. And finally, work out your maximum offer or bid price. You don't have to make your maximum offer to start with. You can go in at a lower figure, but you need to know right at the start how high you will go, and the same goes for bidding at an auction. You need to know where you will stop. And don't be tempted into going too high. Don't be tempted into bidding or offering over your maximum figure, and certainly not at auction. Your maximum bid price, it should be regarded as a brick wall that you will not go over, and if you hit it, then so be it. If you bid and make your maximum bid price, fine, but don't go through it. Okay, that brings me to the end of this video. I thank you for watching and listening, and the next video will be on what makes buy-to-let work, and we then start to look at the numbers game. I thank you for watching and listening, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.